The oldest profession, as it should be, was widely represented in ancient Rome. To distinguish whores from ordinary women, they were ordered to wear yellow clothes and red shoes. And they had to work in one of brothels, which were called lupinariums. There was also in Rome its own analog of Greek heteras. A free woman, who provided lovemaking, could increase her status if she was well read, knew how to play a flute or kithara, and danced well, that is, she could entertain clients not only with her body. Such women had a chance to get into high society, find one rich regular customer, and live more or less in prosperity. There was also a vice police in the city, which conducted raids on drinking establishments and baths, in searching of unregistered public women, in order to register and tax them. Whores, as a rule, also wore large wigs of blonde hair, shaved and painted their intimate places with red paint. They usually worked in dirty fetid brothels, run by rude pimps. The society attitude towards the priestesses of love was ambivalent. On the one hand, it was seen as a necessary evil. Cato the Elder recognized undoubted benefits of paid pleasures, which allowed young people to indulge in their basest aspirations, without molesting the wives of other men. At the same time, the Romans considered people offering their bodies for money to be the most despised in society. Usually, both, in the era of the Republic and in the times of the Empire, the whores came from poorest families, who left them without proper attention immediately after birth. They could also be beggars, slaves, who were forced to sell their bodies, or criminals. Nevertheless, there were also free women who just liked this way of life. In addition, representatives of the oldest profession were also divided into various categories. Courtesans were considered above all others, beautiful, refined, with good manners. They could spend months with their regular customers, and were respected by the men who hired them. They were even allowed to participate in men's conversations, expressing their opinion. In return, they had to show the client the same respect that they would show their husbands. Next followed hostess of taverns, or inns. They were not averse of receiving additional income by entering into intimate relations with guests. Not for nothing, Romans associated them with women of easy virtue. They were mostly married, but their husbands didn't interest what they were doing. Depending on the whore category, clients paid them from 2 to 16 asses minus 16 asses are equal to 1 silver denarius, the main monetary unit. The main condition was payment in advance. For comparison, at the beginning of the 2nd century, Roman legionaries received a wages 300 denarius per year. Thus, whores earned much more than legionnaires, and did not risk their lives. Of all the places for engaging in intimate pleasures with public women, the most popular were lupinarias or brothels, located in the most visited areas of Rome. Inside of them, the atmosphere was disgusting, unpleasant odors, walls decorated with obscene drawings of customers. The whores worked in small cells. On a door of such a room, the owner could write a name of a woman, often false, and her sexual specialization. The walls inside, as well as outside, were covered with indecent pictures. In poorest brothels for common people, rooms looked more like caves or cellars with steep vaults, called a hole. The Roman writer Horace claimed that there was such a sickening stench in these holes that men, who had been there, carried it with them for a long time. The key personage of the brothel was a pimp. Practically, he was its owner, and among other things, was responsible for hiring or buying slaves to replenish the staff. The pimp also had to control clients, making sure that they did not exceed a time limit for one person. The action itself in the Roman era did not imply any preliminary caresses, which are now considered mandatory. Everything was very simple. The pimp had several tokens, indicating the price, which also depicted various positions. That helped communicate with foreigners, who did not know the local language. But the main figures in brothels were still whores, not pimps. They used to stand in a doorway of the lupinarium to attract customers. Public women wore in short tunics of provocative colors, or even transparent ones. This was necessary not only to attract men, but also because the law required so. They should not be mixed up with decent women. Nevertheless, over time, decent women began to wear similar clothes. Later, when the conquests of the legionnaires brought to the city a lot of blonde female slaves, it became customary for the whores to dye their hair in light tones or, if they did not have money for it, to buy an appropriate wig. They didn't take off their wigs in brothels either. In order to be more different from matrons and better attract customers, women of easy virtue widely used various cosmetics, covering cheeks with blush and enlarging eyes with charcoal, applying a thick layer of makeup, and smearing nipples with red paint. Thus, even aged public women could deceive men and prolong own working life for several more years. Usually intimate pleasures were practiced after dark. It was not customary to engage in them in a light time. The same thing happened with clothes. It was considered indecent to be completely naked, even in a brothel. The walls of the preserved lupinarium in Pompeii are covered with inscriptions made by visitors. The men reported how they spent their time and with whom. Some inscriptions contain the cost of services. One of them says that its author had a good time with a certain drachma for a denarius. In another, it is reported that a man paid 2 asses for fellatio, oral pleasures. The general range of prices was not too wide, from 2 to 16 asses. That is, the Pompeian drachma took the upper limit of the dachshund for her services. Apparently she was young and pretty. But she was not included in the highest category. The girls who worked there took 32 asses, 2 denarius. Probably, by modern standards, they were escort-level ladies. Well, now let's compare prices of the lupinarium with other Roman prices to understand whether it was expensive or not. Entering to baths cost 1 ass, but all additional services were paid separately. For 1 ass you could rent a room for lovemaking, or buy a bowl of beans for dinner, or half a liter of cheap sour wine. For 2 asses, they gave a loaf of bread, or half a liter of better wine. For 4, half a liter of good Falernian wine. Dinner in a tavern with wine cost 5 asses. Under Julius Caesar, 1st century BC, rental housing in Rome was up to 20 asses per day, and in provincial Italy, 4 to 5 asses. This is despite of the fact that the baker was paid 5 asses per day, the legionnaire 10, and the sewer, for cleaning cesspools 11. Thus, a salary of less than 10 asses in the province, not to mention the capital, meant a very poor life. Ordinary citizens could not often visit the lupinarium with such earnings. And the whores themselves can be classified as highly paid workers. If you like this video, please put likes, write comments and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for attention. Bye bye.